week 12 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, Randall Cobb, more reliable of the Green Bay Packers. So Randall Cobb, he came off IR last week here and finally got into game action on Thursday Night Football versus the Tennessee Titans for this Packer team. So Randall Cobb had a good ball game, 6 catches, 73 yards. And this week here, week 12, it's Sunday Night Football with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a ball game where they're probably going to be trailing in this one once again, is this Green Bay Packer team. And it was learned today that Aaron Rodgers, he's been playing since week 5 supposedly with a broken thumb, and that explains why maybe the accuracy hasn't been there, or maybe it's a built-in excuse. But either way here, they're going to throw the football a lot in this game. The pecking order right now is Christian Watson and Lazard 1A and 1B as the wide receivers, and Cobb filling in the slot over here since he returned. Romeo Doubs, he's been out a couple weeks. He didn't practice once again early this week here, so I doubt Doubs is going to play. And either way, I don't think there's a fit here for Doubs right now. With Watson emerging, Lazard doing his thing, and Cobb being a decent slot guy. So right now, available in 93% of fantasy leagues. I have Randall Cobb as a sleeper option this week. The next guy, Demarcus Robinson of the Baltimore Ravens. I've been mentioning Robinson as a sleeper option and a deeper league guy over the last few weeks. And after coming off a 9-catch, 128-yard game versus the Panthers in week 11, he got added in 12% of fantasy leagues. But the funny thing is, to me, he's still out there in 84% of fantasy leagues here as D-Rob. So right now, good matchup at the Jacksonville Jaguars that give up the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And this is a guy that obviously Lamar Jackson has some faith in. He's seen some targets over the last few weeks here since Bateman went down. Week 8 at Tampa, 8 targets, 6 catches, 64 yards. Week 9 in New Orleans, I know only 4 targets, but 2 of them were in the end zone, and he just missed them, and that one was a Lamar with a catch for 12 yards. And then last week, the big game, like I mentioned, 9 catches, 9 targets, caught them all, obviously, and 128 yards. So right now, Devin Duvernay's not doing much. Prachi, he's not doing much, the rookie over there. And Deshaun Jackson's banged up, so right now, Demarcus Robinson looking like the number 1 wide receiver over there in Baltimore. And with a good matchup and still out there in tons of leagues, he's definitely a receiver I have as a sleeper this week. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper is Sky Moore of the Kansas City Chiefs. So right here, obviously later in the season, rookies get more involved in Sky Moore. He was a pretty high draft pick for this Chiefs team. It looks like Juju Smith-Schuster will be back in this one after a concussion. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he'll only have a few good games here and there for this Kansas City Chiefs team. And Kadarius Toney, they traded for him, obviously, from the Giants, and he's banged up with a hamstring injury. And Hardman, obviously, on injured reserve going back to last week. So Sky Moore having the best game of his short NFL career in his rookie year on Week 11 at the Chargers. 5 catches, 63 yards. He's an explosive guy. He could go out there and make plays. And this week here, a good matchup versus the Rams that give up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So right now, Sky Moore, he should be owned in all 12-team leagues or deeper, in my opinion. Available right now in 92% of fantasy leagues. And if you're in a pinch of wide receiver, I think he's a guy that actually could go out there and help fantasy owners this week here, especially with the factors I mentioned, with Tani banged up. Juju, yes, he's back. Valdez-Scantling not doing much. I think Sky Moore could jump up that depth chart. So that's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers here for Week 12 of the fantasy football season.